My girlfriend has been secretly dating a married person, and now they're accusing me of cheating to keep their affair hidden. I never imagined I'd be in this kind of situation. My name is Jake, 28M, and I've been with my partner, Maya, 27F, for almost 5 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we had something real. Trust, loyalty, and a shared life. Those things matter to me. But now, I'm starting to question everything. For the past few months, Maya's behavior has been different. She's always been somewhat secretive, but recently, it feels like she's been hiding parts of her life from me. There were small things at first, locking her phone more frequently, taking long calls in the other room, and suddenly becoming overly protective about her privacy. I noticed she'd sometimes come home later than usual, claiming she had to stay late at work. Her explanations were never convincing, but I tried to push aside my suspicions. After all, I loved her. I wanted to trust her. Then, a few weeks ago, something happened that I couldn't ignore. Maya had accidentally left her phone on the kitchen counter when she went out for a jog. It buzzed a few times, and out of pure instinct, I glanced at the screen. It was a message preview from someone named Diane, but the text didn't look innocent. It was flirtatious, even suggestive. My heart pounded as I debated whether I should look further. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I unlocked her phone and went through her messages. What I found was worse than I could have imagined. Maya had been talking to someone named Diane for months. And this wasn't just a friendship. She was having a full-blown affair. The texts were laced with confessions of love, hidden meetings, and plans for the future. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through the conversation. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a complete mockery of our relationship. But that wasn't the worst part. I quickly realized that Diane wasn't just some random woman. She was married. Maya was seeing a married person, and they both knew it was wrong. I confronted Maya that evening, my heart pounding in my chest as I replayed the things I'd read. She looked shocked at first, caught off guard, but then her face changed. She crossed her arms and gave me this icy, calculating look I'd never seen before. Instead of admitting to what she'd done, she flipped the entire situation on me. "How dare you invade my privacy?" she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Are you seriously going through my phone now? That's a huge invasion of trust, Jake." I stood there, stunned. How could she twist this around like that? I had every reason to be angry, to feel betrayed, but somehow she made it about me. When I mentioned the messages, she laughed, acting as if I'd overreacted, as if I were crazy for being upset. I tried to stay calm, but the anger bubbled up inside me, demanding answers. But instead of confessing, she went on the offense. "You know what, Jake? You're projecting. You're accusing me because you're the one who's been acting suspicious lately. I've noticed it. Don't think I haven't. Maybe you're the one who's hiding something," she said, her voice rising. I was floored. She was accusing me of cheating. The irony was almost laughable. But there was no humor in this situation, just a cold, calculating manipulation that left me feeling more helpless with every word she said. I tried to fight back, to tell her that I wasn't the one hiding things, but she wouldn't listen. She painted herself as the victim, making it seem like I was the one tearing us apart with baseless accusations. By the end of the argument, she had twisted things so thoroughly that I almost started to doubt myself. Was I really being irrational? She stormed out that night, slamming the door behind her, and left me standing there reeling. My mind was a mess of anger, confusion, and disbelief. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just glimpsed a side of Maya I had never seen before, a side that was manipulative, cruel, and willing to do anything to protect her lies. As I sat alone, the reality of my situation hit me hard. The woman I thought I knew had been hiding a whole other life from me, and now she was turning the tables, trying to make me the villain in her twisted game. But I wasn't about to let her gaslight me. I decided right then and there that I would get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. Maya had shown me that she was willing to lie, to deceive, and to hurt me if it meant saving herself. If she thought I was just going to sit back and let her destroy my life, she had another thing coming. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. In the days following our confrontation, Maya's behavior took a bizarre turn. She started coming home at odd hours, sometimes not at all. When she was around, she'd act as if nothing was wrong, almost like we were still in a happy relationship. But I could see through the act. I knew what she was doing, and I was determined to catch her red-handed. I started keeping track of her movements, hoping to find some concrete evidence that would back up my suspicions. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed proof, not for anyone else, but for my own sanity. Every time she left, I'd check her phone, her emails, anything that might give me a clue about what was really going on. It felt wrong, but I didn't care anymore. I had to know the truth. Then one evening, I stumbled upon something that shook me to my core. Maya had been exchanging emails with Diane, and I found out they were planning a trip together. A weekend getaway, no less, under the guise of a work conference. It was all right there, in black and white. They'd arranged to meet at a secluded cabin a few hours away. I could feel my blood boiling as I read through the details. It was clear now. Maya wasn't just having an affair. She was actively planning to run away with this woman, this married person, and had no intention of stopping. When she came home that night, I confronted her again, holding the printed emails in my hand. She had the audacity to act surprised, as if I were the one doing something wrong by finding them. "Oh, so now you're stalking me," she sneered, crossing her arms defensively. "You know, Jake, this obsession of yours is getting really disturbing. Maybe you should see someone about it." "Stop it, Maya," I snapped. "Stop pretending like you're the victim here. You've been lying to me for months. You're planning a weekend away with her, and you expect me to just sit back and take it. I'm not stupid." She rolled her eyes, unfazed by my anger. "You're overreacting," she said dismissively, brushing past me. "Diane and I are friends. Yes, we're close, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Her words stung, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I followed her into the kitchen, determined to get answers. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" "I read the emails, Maya. You're not just friends. You're planning to run off with her. You're betraying me, and I'm supposed to believe that I'm the one with the problem." She whirled around, her eyes flashing with anger. "You don't know what you're talking about. I have no intention of running away. You've twisted this whole situation in your head because you can't stand the idea of me having someone else in my life." Her voice was cold, and I could see the hatred in her eyes. It was like looking at a stranger. I wanted to scream, to force her to admit what she was doing, but I knew it would be pointless. She was too far gone, wrapped up in her own web of lies. Nothing I said would change her mind. She turned on me then, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You know what, Jake? You're pathetic. You're so obsessed with controlling me that you can't see how miserable you've made me. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, I wouldn't have had to look for comfort elsewhere." I clenched my fists, fighting back the urge to yell. Her words were like daggers, each one piercing deeper than the last. She was trying to make this about me, to make me feel guilty for her betrayal. But I knew the truth. I knew that no matter what she said, this was all on her. "Fine," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You out. Go. Run off with her. I don't care anymore. But don't you dare come back here expecting me to forgive you. You've made your choice, and now you have to live with it." She smirked, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "Oh, I don't need your forgiveness, Jake. I'll be just fine without you. In fact, I think I'll be better off." With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I was left standing there alone, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I thought I knew Maya, but she'd shown me who she really was, a manipulative, heartless liar who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. As the night wore on, I realized that this wasn't just about her affair. It was about control, about power. She'd twisted everything, turning me into the villain in her twisted narrative. And as much as it hurt, I knew I couldn't let her win. I had to fight back, to protect myself from the damage she was trying to inflict. But I also knew that this was far from over. Maya wasn't going to let go that easily. She had an agenda, and she was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. And as I sat alone in the dark, I made a vow to myself. I wouldn't let her destroy me. No matter what she threw my way, I would survive. I would come out of this stronger, smarter, and ready to face whatever came next. The next few days were an emotional blur. Maya didn't come home, and part of me was relieved. I didn't need her toxic presence dragging me down any further. I spent most of my time cleaning the house, trying to erase every trace of her, every reminder of the life we'd once shared. But no matter how hard I scrubbed, the memories lingered, each one a painful reminder of what I'd lost. Then, on the third night, she showed up. I was sitting on the couch, nursing a drink, when the door swung open and she waltzed in, acting as if nothing had happened. I could see the smug look on her face, the satisfied smirk that told me she thought she'd won. "Jake," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I think we need to talk." I put down my drink, glaring at her. "What's there to talk about, Maya? You made your choice. You've been running around with Diane, spreading lies about me, trying to make me look like the bad guy. I'm done playing your games." She let out a laugh, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "Oh, Jake, you're so dramatic. You think I actually care what you think. This isn't about you. It's about me and my happiness. I've wasted enough time trying to make you feel like a man. Now it's time for me to get what I deserve." Her words stung, but I refused to let her see how much they affected me. "So what is it then, Maya? You've taken everything you can from me. You've ruined my reputation, destroyed my trust, and now you want what? Closure? An apology?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "No, Jake. I want you to understand that this is your fault. You pushed me into this. You made me feel like I had no choice. Diane made me feel alive, something you could never do." I could feel the anger rising inside me, a white-hot fury that threatened to consume me. But I held it back, determined not to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. "You're unbelievable," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You blame me for your actions, for your lies, and yet you're the one who's been sneaking around, betraying me at every turn. You're a coward, Maya. You always have been." She laughed again, the sound cold and mocking. "Oh, please, save the righteous anger for someone who cares. You're just as much a liar as I am. You want people to think you're this stand-up guy, this perfect boyfriend. But you're just as broken as the rest of us." I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my emotions in check. I wanted to scream, to throw her out, to make her feel the pain she'd inflicted on me. But I knew that would only fuel her twisted narrative, give her more ammunition to use against me. Instead, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Leave, Maya. You don't belong here anymore. You're nothing to me. Go back to Diane, or whoever else you've been running around with. I don't care. Just get out of my life." She smirked, shrugging her shoulders as if she couldn't care less. "Fine. I'll go, but don't think this is over. You can't just erase me, Jake. I'm part of you now, whether you like it or not." With that, she turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. I sat there in the silence, my heart pounding, my mind racing. She was right, in a way. She'd become a part of me, a scar that I would carry for the rest of my life. But I refused to let her control me any longer. I would find a way to move on, to rebuild my life, no matter what it took. A few days later, I started hearing rumors. People I barely knew were stopping me on the street, giving me strange looks, whispering behind my back. It didn't take long for me to figure out what was going on. Maya had been spreading lies, telling anyone who would listen that I was the one who had cheated, that I had driven her into Diane's arms with my controlling behavior. She twisted the story, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. I tried to ignore it at first, telling myself that the truth would come out eventually. But the rumors kept spreading, growing more vicious with each passing day. People started avoiding me, treating me like a pariah. I could see the judgment in their eyes, the disbelief, the pity. Maya had succeeded in turning the world against me, and I was powerless to stop it. But I refused to give up. I knew I couldn't change the past, couldn't erase the damage she'd done. But I could fight back in my own way. I started documenting everything, keeping a record of every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal. I wasn't sure what I would do with it, but it gave me a sense of control, a way to reclaim some small part of the life she'd stolen from me. Then, one night, I received a message from Diane. She wanted to meet, said she had something to tell me. I was hesitant at first, wary of her intentions, but my curiosity got the better of me. I agreed to meet her at a local cafe, hoping for some kind of closure, some piece of information that would help me make sense of everything that had happened. When I arrived, Diane was already there, sitting at a table in the corner, her face drawn and tired. She looked up as I approached, giving me a small, sad smile. "Jake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I sat down across from her, crossing my arms. I don't need your apologies, Diane. I need answers. Why did you go along with it? Why did you let Maya manipulate you, let her ruin my life? She sighed, looking down at her hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Maya, she has a way of making people do things they wouldn't normally do. She convinced me that you were the problem, that you were this controlling monster who didn't deserve her. I believed her, Jake. I let her poison my mind, and I'm so sorry for that. Her words stung, but I could see the sincerity in her eyes. She was just as much a victim of Maya's lies as I was, caught in the same web of deceit and betrayal. I wanted to be angry with her, to blame her for what had happened, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. We were both victims in this twisted game, pawns in Maya's quest for control. As we sat there in silence, I felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't alone in this. Diane and I had both been hurt, both been betrayed by the same person. And in that moment, I realized that I didn't need revenge, didn't need to destroy Maya's life to find peace. I just needed to let go, to move on, to rebuild my life without her shadow hanging over me. But as I left the cafe that night, I knew it wouldn't be easy. Maya was still out there, still spreading her lies, still trying to control the narrative. And I knew that as long as she was out there, I would never truly be free. I'd hoped that my meeting with Diane would bring some closure, but instead, it only fueled my resolve. Maya had done enough damage, and she wasn't stopping anytime soon. My life was in shambles because of her lies, and while I wanted to let it go, I knew deep down that I couldn't walk away without standing up for myself. I was tired of being her scapegoat, tired of letting her rewrite our story to suit her twisted version of events. As I walked home, my phone buzzed with another message, this time from an old friend, Kevin. I hadn't heard from him in years, and I was hesitant to read it, assuming it was just another person falling for Maya's web of lies. But when I opened it, I saw a screenshot attached, followed by a single line. Thought you should see this. The screenshot was from a private group chat. Maya had been messaging a group of our mutual friends, telling them all about our toxic relationship. She painted me as this jealous, controlling boyfriend who had pushed her into another person's arms. I could barely recognize myself in the stories she'd spun. She made me sound like a monster. But what really shocked me was the way she was laughing about it, joking with her friends about how easy it was to make me look bad. They were all in on it, sharing stories, laughing at my expense. The hurt was almost too much to bear. These were people I'd trusted, people I'd once called friends. They'd taken Maya's side without question, believing her lies, mocking me behind my back. And Maya, she was reveling in it, enjoying the chaos she created. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her win. She'd taken so much from me, but I still had one thing she couldn't touch: the truth. I was going to expose her for the manipulative, deceitful person she truly was. I had enough evidence, enough proof of her lies, and I was ready to share it with the world. The next morning, I gathered everything I had: screenshots, messages, even a few old emails that detailed Maya's constant manipulation. I spent hours organizing everything, making sure it was all there, all ready to be laid out in the open. I knew it was risky, knew that Maya would come after me harder than ever, but I didn't care. I was done being her victim. I posted everything online, attaching a brief explanation of what had really happened between us. I was honest about my own mistakes, my own flaws, but I didn't hold back when it came to exposing Maya's lies. I shared how she tried to paint me as a villain, how she twisted our relationship into something unrecognizable, and how she manipulated everyone around us. I was brutally honest, laying it all out for anyone to see. Almost immediately, the messages started flooding in. Some people were shocked, others sympathetic. A few friends reached out to apologize, admitting that they'd believed Maya's lies without question. But most of all, people were angry at Maya for the way she treated me, angry at her for manipulating them, angry at the entire situation. The tide was finally turning, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. But then came the backlash. Maya wasn't going to let this go without a fight. Within hours, she was messaging me, calling me, leaving furious voicemails. She accused me of ruining her life, of slandering her, of turning people against her. She threatened to take legal action, saying she'd sue me for defamation, saying she'd make me pay for what I'd done. But I didn't care. She could try whatever she wanted, but I had the truth on my side, and I wasn't backing down. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Maya's new boyfriend, someone I'd never met but had heard about through mutual friends. He was furious, demanding to know why I was spreading lies about her, why I was trying to destroy her reputation. He was clearly wrapped around her finger, believing every word she said, just like I once had. I tried to reason with him, tried to explain what had really happened, but he wouldn't listen. He was convinced that I was the problem, that I was some bitter ex who couldn't let go. And in that moment, I realized that Maya hadn't changed at all. She was still playing her games, still manipulating people to suit her needs, still twisting the truth to get what she wanted. But I was done trying to convince others. I'd done my part, shared my side of the story, and if they wanted to believe her lies, that was their choice. I wasn't going to let her drag me down any longer. I'd spent enough time living in her shadow, enough time letting her control my life. I blocked her number, along with anyone who tried to come at me on her behalf. I'd fought my battle, and while it hadn't been easy, I felt a sense of relief, a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. I knew there would be consequences, knew that Maya would keep coming after me, but I didn't care. I'd taken back control of my life, and no one was going to take that away from me. As I sat there, looking at the aftermath of my actions, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, relief, sadness, but most of all, hope. Hope that I could finally move on, finally leave the past behind, and finally start living my life on my own terms. Maya had tried to break me, but in the end, I'd found the strength to stand up for myself, to fight back, and to reclaim the life she tried to steal. But I knew this wasn't the end. Maya wasn't the kind of person who would give up easily, and I had a feeling that there were more battles to come. But I was ready. I faced the worst she could throw at me, and I'd come out stronger on the other side. I was done being her victim, done letting her control me, done letting her lies define my life. As I looked out the window, watching the sun set on another chaotic day, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I didn't know what the future held, didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but I knew one thing for sure. I was ready to face whatever came my way. And this time, I was going to live life on my own terms, free from the shadows of my past, free from Maya's control, and free to finally be myself. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was living in a strange limbo. Maya had gone radio silent, no more messages or attempts to reach me. At first, I thought she'd finally given up, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. I had exposed her for the manipulative liar she was, and people were starting to see through her side. The fallout had taken a toll on both of us, but I felt something Maya never could: relief. Then one morning, I woke up to find a letter slipped under my door. It was a single sheet of paper, neatly folded, with Maya's familiar handwriting scrawled across the top. She'd written me a note, dripping with venom and malice, outlining how I'd destroyed her life and how she wasn't done with me. She claimed that she'd make sure I'd regret exposing her, that she'd find a way to turn this around and come out on top. And chillingly, she mentioned that she'd been talking to people who were interested in teaching me a lesson. I could feel my blood run cold. The letter felt like a warning, a promise of more chaos to come. She was threatening to involve others, to escalate things beyond just words and rumors. The sense of calm I'd been feeling was suddenly replaced by dread. Maya was unpredictable, and I had no idea what she was capable of. Later that day, I received a message from my friend Kevin, the one who had first sent me the screenshot. He heard from a mutual acquaintance that Maya had been trying to rally a group of people against me, twisting the story even further. She was framing me as some kind of dangerous, obsessive ex, spinning tales of how I'd threatened her, followed her, even stalked her. I felt trapped, powerless, as if every step I'd taken to free myself had only made things worse. A few days passed, and Maya's smear campaign grew more aggressive. She was contacting people from my workplace, people I barely knew, feeding them lies about my character. She claimed that I'd abused her, that I'd been unfaithful, that I was a controlling monster. I was starting to see the effects: cold stares from coworkers, a sudden distance from friends. She was doing everything she could to ruin my life, to make me pay for daring to expose her. One evening, as I was walking back to my apartment, I noticed a figure lurking by my door. It was a man I didn't recognize, tall and broad-shouldered, with a look of cold determination on his face. As I approached, he stepped forward, blocking my path. "You've got a lot of nerve, airing out someone's dirty laundry like that," he sneered. "People talk, you know, and some of us don't take kindly to seeing our friends treated like trash." It was clear that Maya had sent him. I tried to reason with him to explain my side, but he wasn't interested. He shoved me hard, slamming me against the wall, and whispered that I'd better watch my back. I could feel the anger and hatred radiating off him, a physical manifestation of Maya's vendetta against me. I realized in that moment that she had no limits. She was willing to do whatever it took to make my life a living hell. The confrontation left me rattled, but I knew I couldn't back down. I went to the police, explaining the threats, the harassment, the smear campaign. I showed them the letter Maya had left me, the messages from her and her associates. But the response I got was underwhelming. They told me that unless she physically harmed me or explicitly threatened violence, there wasn't much they could do. I was alone in this fight. I decided to change my approach. If Maya wanted to play dirty, then I'd match her move for move. I compiled every piece of evidence I had, recordings of her manipulations, messages from her taunting me, threats she'd made. I started reaching out to people who had believed her lies, presenting them with the truth. I posted online, sharing my story in full, and this time, I made sure it reached as many people as possible. The response was mixed. Some people rallied to my side, expressing outrage at Maya's actions. Others remained skeptical, unwilling to believe that someone they thought they knew could be so duplicitous. I wasn't sure if I'd ever fully clear my name, but I was done letting her control the narrative. I was fighting back, not just for myself, but for the truth. Then, one night, I received an unexpected message from Maya herself. It was short, almost apologetic, as if she were finally willing to admit some semblance of guilt. She claimed that she'd gotten caught up in her own lies, that she'd lost control, that things had spiraled out of hand. But I wasn't falling for it. I'd seen this pattern too many times before. She was trying to play the victim again, trying to twist things back in her favor. The message ended with a chilling line. "You'll regret this. I promise." I blocked her number, knowing full well that this wasn't the end. But I'd found my strength again. I'd stood up to her, and while it had cost me friends, respect, and peace of mind, I knew I'd done the right thing. I was no longer the helpless pawn in her twisted game. I was free, scared but wiser, determined to rebuild my life on my own terms. As I stood by the window, looking out over the city, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. Maya would continue to scheme, to lie, to manipulate, but I was no longer her target. I'd exposed her, brought her darkness into the light, and now, whatever happened next was beyond my control. I was ready to move forward, ready to leave the shadows behind. I took one last look at my phone, deleted the messages, and stepped back, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I'd survived her wrath, her betrayal, her lies. And in doing so, I'd reclaimed my life. It was time to move on, to let go, and to finally live free from the ghost of Maya's control.